When designing for vehicles on your site, you need to have somewhere to put them. So let's talk about parking lot layout. Here's a couple of tips and then we'll go into more detail. Parking spaces in general can be at 90 degrees to a drive aisle, right? Or they can be at other angles, 45, 30, 60 are common. Right? Your drive aisles themselves can be single or double loaded. They can be one-way or two-way. And in general, you need to design to avoid dead ends. You never want someone to have to back up and turn around to get out of your parking lot. All right. In general, you want them to be able to circle around if needed. So let's look more specific at those drive aisles, starting with one-way and two-way aisles. Here's an illustration. This is a two-way aisle, all right? It's 24 feet minimum, and cars are going in both directions in order to access the parking spaces, right? As opposed to a one-way aisle in which cars are only going in one direction. This illustration gives an 18-foot minimum width. I think that is really narrow, and would prefer that you use a 20-foot width for this class. Next, let's look at angled parking. Here's an illustration of a 45-degree parking with a one-way aisle. All right, so cars are only coming in this direction to park in these spaces. All right. Back to our City of Harrisburg zoning code, you can see that they account for these different parking angles and the standard space size. All right. And also they give you that aisle width for one-way and two-way. That's where I'm getting that 20 feet instead of 18 feet width. And here's how you might lay out that parking when you're designing the lot. All right, the easiest way to do this in AutoCAD is to simply make a rectangle of your required size, rotate it, and then copy it as needed. All right, and so we were looking at 90-degree parking. All right, you can also mix your angles. We've got 90 degrees along the side and 45 along the middle. All right, here's what 45-degree parking looks like. Notice that these spots are kind of interwoven. All right, this is a fairly efficient design. All right, I mentioned this already, but make sure to avoid dead ends. All right, if there's no other way, all right, then you need to give them space to perform a three-point turn. So in this case, there is no other way, all right, but to do a dead end parking lot, you need to have somebody be able to pull in and back and then turn back around, all right. There's another way to park, and that's parallel parking. All right. For this class, we're going to use a 23-foot long and 9-foot wide parking space for a standard parallel parking stall. All right. You can go a little bit smaller, 21 foot by 8 for a minimum or a compact. And they need that extra length just because of the act of pulling in and out of that space. Once you've got this beautiful parking layout, where do you place it on a site and how do you get in and out? Well, you'll typically have a driveway at a site's entrance and possibly a second driveway for an exit. All right, and those driveways will have a specific size. Here is the one for City of Harrisburg. It needs to be somewhere between 12 feet to 35 feet for one way, and 24 to 50 feet for a two-way entrance or exit. All right, and they also have another requirement that if there are two entries, they need to be at least 50 feet apart.